Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. So Martin Luther King once said that a riot is the voice of the unheard. As seemingly pointless as the violence may be, it unfortunately is the only mechanism by which attention can be drawn to the issue. And became blatantly obvious to me when last night I was watching this reporter and they were looking at this scene of people who were demonstrating peacefully, and they were almost disappointed that nothing was happening there. They were really looking for, things that were unfolding in this scene to try to show some looting or some, something mischievous is what they were looking for. And there was almost this disappointment in their voice when they literally said, "Oh, it doesn't look like anything's happening here." Well, no, what was happening there was hundreds of people who were peacefully demonstrating, but it doesn't get the media attention. It almost makes it inevitable that you're going to see the type of riots because it's entertainment. And it's sad that, we have become the entertainment. Now that the Netflix movies have ran out, we are now looking to the misplaced anger and the grievances of these mobs for entertainment. Now, like I said, riots are often the voice of the unheard. People who don't feel like any change has happened, and you could argue no change has happened, and we are stuck in this vicious cycle by which you have poorly trained police forces and you don't have enough money towards education. I don't know why we can't use stimulus money to pump the education system and, just make that as perfect as we possibly can to try to create safer communities by promoting community-based policing, by making corrections programs actually more rehabilitative. There's plenty of things you could do. If we can just put $7 trillion on the fly, there's no reason why we couldn't make that investment. But instead, we're stuck in this perpetual cycle of violence and misunderstanding. And what happens is that this is going to happen, and then people are going to reference the mob as being the reason as to why the police have to conduct themselves in such a poor fashion. And then the cycle just continues, and we get nowhere. And there's a reason for that. This economy as it's structured, and no, I don't promote socialism. I like capitalism. I like the fact that, an entrepreneur, if they work hard, that they can become successful and innovative and prosperous, commensurate to the amount of work that they put in. I believe that's a good thing. However, right now we are stuck in a debt spiral, if you will, in which the only way to keep the economy propped up is if you hyperinflate the stock market. And, we'll also give $1,200 stimulus checks to everybody, which are running out. Okay, and that's part of the reason why this stuff is happening right now, is because you have a lot of people who are disenfranchised, they're out of work, or they can't find work, or the work that they can find isn't going to pay their bills. So what you're going to have then is a unification of these different movements. You're going to have the Occupy movement and the convergence of, the BLM movement. So within this economic shitstorm, you have more crime because people don't have as much money to spend. They feel more hopeless. For whatever reason, crime goes up. That's just how it always is. Less money in the system, crime is going to go up. If crime goes up, cops are going to be pushed to the limit, which is in no way, shape, or form an excuse for what happened with that police officer. I actually think that he should be charged with second degree, not third degree in manslaughter, because in that video, you can see the moment that he realized that he may have actually screwed up. I'm not going to use the F word in this video, but he may have actually screwed up. And you can almost see that he notices that, and he keeps going, because he wants to make it look like he didn't know what happened. That's the deceit in the video. Those moments that after he did that, to make it look like an accident, he could have potentially been resuscitated at that point. There could have been the possibility of resuscitation. But instead, he continued to do it because he wanted to make it appear as though he didn't know what happened. And that's exactly what I seen happening in that video. He's not stupid. A cop of 17 years And as old as he is, I think he was a bouncer at one point, he understands human anatomy. He knows what the end result of what he was doing was going to be. So the idea that he did not know what was happening is bullshit. And I think that any right-minded jury or judge is going to look at that video footage and come to that very same conclusion. It doesn't take long to deliberate something like that. If you have an honest jury looking at this, it should not take long to deliberate the fact that that guy knew exactly what he had done, and he kept on doing it so that it would look like an accident. And this is the third incident like that in a month. Now, obviously, the guy should not have been there trying to commit check fraud or using a counterfeit bill, and we don't even know if that, if he was conscious of that or not. Okay, if he was, he shouldn't have been committing a crime. Regardless, that's a scary, slippery slope for any of you who find yourself on the other side of this argument and don't think this is a big deal. Just remember that someday you may be in that same position, and who is going to come to your aid? So most people know that I'm a huge proponent of taking responsibility for yourself. But that doesn't mean that the police can't act professionally. And I know this is not all police. It sucks that I always have to reiterate the obvious just to not offend people, but that's just the way it is, I suppose. Personal responsibility and preparedness go hand in hand. The great thing about survivalism, and if you do it holistically, is that it's not just for the purpose of reaching a level of survival, where you're just scraping by in the wilderness. If you consider like a survival situation, the word survive means just getting to a level where your primary needs are met and not really exceeding that. But preparedness for me is all about thriving. It's a path towards self-improvement for people, if anything. In the process, you get yourself prepared, you learn practical skills, and it forces you to be a Renaissance man or a polymath of sorts, in that you need to be a bit of a jack of all trades. So if situations like what are happening in 2020 here happen, then you're more prepared to deal with it. Now, these protests are probably going to get worse. They may diffuse for a while, but if you see another incident happen in the next couple weeks, it's going to get monumentally worse. And then, of course, you're going to have an increased military presence, an increased, National Guard presence, I should say, and it's only going to make matters worse because, of course, we still are in the throes of a pandemic. And as we continue to see economic instability, and as people grow increasingly more frustrated, as Wall Street continues to profit from all of this, and as that divide widens, we're going to see more and more protests like this. It's pretty much inevitable at this point, especially if somebody gets hurt while they're riding. And that's not to say that they're justified to go and commit a bunch of crimes and burn down their own communities. I don't think that's the answer, obviously. But when going back to the beginning of this video, when you have reporters who only seem to want to report on the bad stuff because that's what's entertaining, then you got to ask yourself, is there any other way that can be done? Now, let's be honest. If these protesters, these young, diverse group of people, went and tried to do something like they did in that one state there where they open carried and they went into one of the government buildings there to demonstrate, I think we know what the end result of that would be. I don't think the response would be the same. And so, that speaks to the advantage of certain groups and their ability to demonstrate in certain ways, which are still able to get attention without necessarily having to burn something down. Now, maybe they just need more creative ways of demonstrating in order to get the attention of people. And, you can harp on the vegans and the feminists as much as you like, but, some of those demonstrations they do that seem really outlandish, like painting themselves with, animal blood or something like that, as stupid as that might seem, it gets attention. That's the whole point, is to get people's attention. And inadvertently, whether that was the intention of the crowd who was looting the store or not, obviously they were just in it for themselves. But that's the effect. It got society's attention, and now everybody's talking about it. If it was just a peaceful demonstration, it would have to be millions and millions of people strong, and they probably would still ignore it. There's a lot of demonstrations out there where there's millions of people in the streets, and there's barely any news coverage of it. So it's sad to say that you almost need some shenanigans, shenanigans, what a word, shenanigans going on in the streets in order for people to take an interest in it. That's just how we are as a culture. You know, we want action. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Don't forget to stay ready. Check out my video preparing for civil unrest that I made a few weeks back in anticipation of things of this nature. Thanks for watching, guys. Canadian Prepper out.